Welcome to Guiding Families Forward Through Divorce.
Welcome to Guiding Families Forward Through Divorce. Child custody can be one of the toughest parts of divorce, but it doesn't have to be a battle. Ann Hamer, family law attorney and founding partner of Hamer and Taylor, helps Tennessee families navigate divorce with discretion and care. I'm Leanne Lyon, and today we're exploring how to move from fighting to win to creating custody plans that truly support a child's well-being. Hello, Ann. Nice to see you again.
Thanks, Leanne. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So, when parents hear the word custody, many immediately think it's a fight. So, what's the difference between a custody battle and a custody solution?
Well, let's talk about the word custody. That is an old-fashioned term that unfortunately is still hanging around in all our state statutes. It sounds like you're talking about inmates. And so over time, the courts have tried to move to the concept of parenting time as opposed to custody. But unfortunately, custody is still in a lot of people's minds. And when they come to me, I hear, I want full custody. I want full custody. I'm going to have primary custody. It's still a very big word, and it's fraught with a lot of drama, which is problematic. So what we try to do is get people to understand we've moved away from that. It's not custody anymore. It's parenting time. Who gets to spend their time with the kids, when, and how does that look?
So, what are the earliest warning signs that a parenting case is turning into a battle instead of a problem solving process?
It'll start right off the bat, unfortunately for us. So a lot of times the parents have you'll see it when the parents are living in separate residences before the divorce is filed, and they've got to figure out how to deal with the kids. And that's when we'll see the confusion, because there's not a parenting plan yet in place. And so if the parents cannot figure it out on their own, you'll find out real quickly, he didn't bring the kids back to me on Saturday. I thought he was going to. She was out with her friends and I thought she was going to be having them Saturday night, but then I ended up with them. You'll hear that pretty quickly within the first couple of weeks that a couple gives that a try. If they're still living in the same house, it's usually not as bad. It's when they actually move out without a plan in place. And I recommend to my clients, without a doubt, do not move out until you have a plan in place. But not everybody will always follow that advice. And so sometimes we're batting cleanup.
From your experience, how does prolonged conflict over custody impact children, both short term and long term?
Let's talk about the short term.
Mhm.
Just so horrible. What you'll see with these children is they either will alienate one parent because they feel like the other parent is in the right, and they're children. Okay, so they don't know, and they shouldn't know. They shouldn't even think that. They should not know one single thing about the divorce other than mom and dad are going to be living in different houses, or mom and mom, or dad and dad, and it's going to look different, right? That's all they need to know. Unfortunately, that usually is not the case. People cannot seem to keep their mouths shut. They might be on the phone with their best friend, blathering away about their husband's affair. They might be coming home mad and calling their wife names. It always bleeds over. I do like it when my people can live in two separate houses. It certainly makes it easier as far as they're not disparaging each other in front of the kids. But that kind of constant stress, the divorce is stressful enough. The parents stressing each other out leads down to the children, and you'll see it. It's so important. I think the first bit of advice I'd give to parents who are divorcing is get with your children's therapist, and if you don't have one, get one. And the next thing you need to do is talk to the school. You need to let the school counselor know what's going on so that they can be looking for signs if there's any trouble at school, or if there's any academic trouble.
For sure. What common misconceptions do parents have that often push them toward litigation when other solutions might work better?
That's an interesting question. I think people come in thinking their own point of view is right, and that a court is going to see their point of view. Whoever the judge is going to totally understand and believe me because I am believable, because my story is the right one. And our judges are very, very good at sussing out the story. And so they don't tend to believe one parent solely. usually, without a lot of evidence. And they are good about weighing the evidence, at least the judges I'm in front of. And so I think that people come in thinking, I'll bring this to a judge and I'll get my fair day in court. And that doesn't always turn out to be the fair day they thought they were going to get. It is a huge risk to take when it comes to your kids. The other thing I would say about what parents have a misconception about what a court can do, a court cannot do very much about children. And here's why. The court has a responsibility in Tennessee to maximize each parent's time. That has to be done within what we call the parameters of the best interests of the children. The court considers a lot of different factors when it figures out what's in a child's best interest, but it has to maximize both parents' time. So that could, in many courts, mean a 50-50 parenting schedule. And the only reason a court's going to come off of that is, or at least at the very least, a 60-40, 70-30, maybe. Only reason a court's going to change that schedule is if one parent's really bad for the child, and you've got to prove that. And that's so very rarely the case, that one parent is so bad and that he just cannot parent the child. So I think a lot of times our clients go in thinking this judge is going to do XYZ, and the judge is really hampered or handcuffed because the law is so strict. And so if neither parent's really bad for the child, but the child just refuses to go to one or the other, the judge has only a few options. Now, a judge's options when they're deciding what to do with a child in the middle of a custody battle are therapy. They can order family therapy. They can order that the child get their own therapist. They can put the child in residential therapy if that's needed. They can appoint a guardian ad litem who is the lawyer for the child. And that's often a good solution, because then the child has their own attorney representing their best interests. And then short of that, they can put them in juvenile detention because they're not obeying the parenting plan. And I feel like it's one of my judges calls it I'm trying to hit a round peg into a square, or a square peg into a round hole. That's what it's like, right? He says, this isn't a one size fits all kid. I can't just say this works for this one and that works for that one. You don't know. You want to try to come up with a solution that works for each child specifically, but there just aren't that many resources available to our judges. What I try to explain to my parents is, if the judge decides this child needs to be going to mom or dad or whoever, the option is, juvenile court. The option is detention. The option is foster care if neither of you guys can work this out. And that's a horrible option, right?
Wow. How do you help parents shift their mindset from winning custody to focusing on that child's best interest?
Well, that thread of the foster care generally will help, but it's hard. I really like my more difficult clients to be in counseling so they can understand from a counseling perspective, because I'm not qualified to give them that, but I sure can see it. That they need to be opening their mind and heart to the other parent a bit and giving some grace over there, so that the child gets the best situation, so that the child is getting the kind of parenting they need from both parents. And my mama bear moms are just so protective, and they don't want to leave little babies with dad, or they don't want to leave their teenage daughters with dad, or even their sons who get crosswise with their dad. My dads will let me know, mom does this, mom does that, mom's always on their case, mom, will never do anything fun at her house. I'm the only one that lets them watch TV or play video games. You hear a lot of negativity on both sides. And believe me, the kids, they hear that, they know that's out there. And boy, oh boy, do they play their parents on it too. So, what I try to do is make sure everybody gets with a counselor. The therapist can start talking to them about how their behavior is affecting the kids, because it definitely does affect the children. And then I'll try to let them know what their legal options are and what they're going to look like if I have to go into court trying to enforce their side of the story, if they haven't been holding up their end of the bargain, parenting correctly.
What role does communication or or lack thereof play in escalating custody disputes, and how can parents improve that communication?
It is really sad, but I keep seeing the same pattern over and over and over. And the pattern I see is one party, usually it's the man, but not always, will have very short, limited communication. And the other party will be over communicated. A good example would be, let's say I'm the wife or the ex-wife, the mom, and I go look up soccer. What soccer do I want my child to go into? He could go into this league. He could go into that league. He could play for the school. He could play club soccer, whatever it is, right? And I give my ex-husband 10 different options. You could play this, you could play that. These are the practices. This is when that would go. These people are the coaches. This is how much this costs. The uniforms are pink and green, whatever it is. When you're the over communicating parent, you force the other parent into sort of like I just got to get back here and take a break from that craziness. That's what I was married to. I don't want that anymore. So then they under communicate. And so with either party I've got, with my over communicator, I have to try to pull him back. Just let him know these are the two different leagues. He can look that information up himself. You're not his, social secretary. With my under communicating parent, then I work with them a different way. Send something back you'd want a judge to see. Do you want the judge to see you say no? Or do you want the judge to see you say, well, I'll think about that. I'll look into both those and I'll get back to you within 24 hours, and then get back to them within 24 hours. One bit of advice I would give every email will be read by the court, because if the other side takes you to court, it will. And if you go to court, you want it to be, because hopefully you're doing it right. So think about your communication. What would a judge think if he saw the way you sent that text? What would a judge think if he read that email? And if you can't visualize that, visualize your grandmother, right? Or your first grade teacher. And what would be required of you when you're communicating with someone in a pleasant way? And that's the communication that you need to put in writing to your ex.
How can mediation or collaborative approaches create more durable outcomes than court-ordered solutions?
I'm a huge fan of mediation, and I'm growing to be more of a fan of collaborative, at least mediation, collaborative can be fairly similar when it comes to parenting issues. In both those situations, you're making your own plan, and the plan you make is going to be better than a plan a judge makes. So when I have to go to court and a judge is putting down a plan, oh my goodness, we will end up still litigating over it years later, because the judge didn't think of X, Y, or Z. The judge didn't take into consideration that mom's family always does a family vacation over 4th of July. Well, the judge didn't take into consideration that dad always has Christmas Eve. That there are just these little things that only you and your family know, and that are important. For instance, summer camp. Summer camp's a big one with my clients right now, because they want to make sure when they have their summer parenting time that the kids' summer camp is respected as long as the kids still want to go. And that's something that a court, they're not really going to care about that summer camp. They're going to go week on, week off. Y'all figure it out. If that falls on dad's week and he wants them to go, he can take them. If he doesn't want them to go, they're not going. The judge isn't going to get into those tiny details. Not at all. So you're better off long term if you, knowing what is important to you and your kids and your spouse or ex-spouse, knowing what's important to the kids as well, can make an agreement on it, because it's an agreement that fits your family.
How do courts typically view parents who are willing to cooperate versus those who are openly combative?
It's always better to be willing to cooperate. And you need to look like the parent who is willing to cooperate. You can't come down taking hard lines unless it has to do with the children's safety. And when it does, that's fine. Absolutely. Then that's what you want to do. But if it's not a safety issue, and I have to ask that of my clients a lot of times, well, what's the safety issue here? What is the worst thing that could happen if dad takes them water skiing? What is the worst thing that could happen on a 2-week vacation to Europe? What are you thinking? And what is a judge going to really think about what you're asking the court to do or to restrict, right? Um, just common sense often goes out the window, but we have to bring it back around to what a neutral third party looks at and says, I don't know, this makes sense to me, or I don't know, that seems too restrictive. The neutral third party is going to have a different opinion than you or your spouse are about what this dispute is. So always keep in mind that someone else is going to be making that decision if you can't figure it out for yourself. You want to figure it out for yourself.
Are there situations where litigation truly is necessary? And how can parents minimize damage even then?
It's really sad. And yes, there are. So there are circumstances where we absolutely need our judges to come in and say, this is not safe for this child, or we need some parameters in order to make that safe for this child. Drug testing comes to mind immediately. There are parents who use drugs, and the drugs are, overwhelming to that parent. There are parents who use alcohol, and alcohol is overwhelming to that parent. And so those people are truly risking and at risk. Your children shouldn't be around them. And or they need parameters, right? Like supervised time. They'll need to go to rehab, and they'll need a drug test. And the courts are very, very good about, at least my judges are really, really good about understanding that, just because you've there are times when a court makes a way better decision than the parents would make.
As we wrap up today, and this is for parents listening who are in the middle of a court dispute right now over custody, what is one step that they can take today to move toward a solution instead of a battle?
I think I'd start with emailing my lawyer and saying, I can tell that things are escalating, or I don't want things to escalate. Um, I want to make sure that we do everything we need to for my children to have a an appropriate parenting plan for them. At the same time, I don't want to put them at risk. Please give me a summary of what you think a court would do in these different scenarios that are important to me. And then list the scenarios. If the scenario is, I want every other week, what will my judge do? If the scenario is, I want to be able to take that 2-week trip to Europe with these kids, what will my judge do? This is why you hired your lawyer. This is why you pay them, is because they've been in front of these judges. They know what these judges do in these situations, and listen to them, right? Because if you don't listen to them, you're just throwing your money to the trash. If they say this is a judge who never allows 2-week vacations at a time, or this is a judge who will never let you take a kid with a passport out of the country till they turn 16, listen to them, right? Instead of fighting about it, your lawyer probably knows what this judge is going to do. And if they do, you can save yourself a lot of time, effort, and trouble by asking for something that's never going to happen in court, or by asking for something that your lawyer says, yeah, if that's really important to you, I know this judge will do it. Let's go to court. It's worth spending the money.
Well, thank you, Anne, and thank you to our audience as well for joining us on Guiding Families Forward Through Divorce. If this episode was helpful, be sure to subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review, and share it with someone who could benefit from this conversation. And to learn more about working with Anne and her team in Tennessee, visit hamertaylor.com or annehamerlaw.com. And we'll see you next time. Thank you, Anne.
Thanks, Leanne.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.